Welcome back, everybody. I'm Michael Glaziar.
And I'm Michael Glaziar.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Michael Glaziar.
And I'm Veronica Corningstone.
Today we're going to start off with the NBA playoff discussion. 3 and 4, games 3 and 4 have happened since our last episode. Game 4 was last night, and the Bucks have evened the series at 2 and 2. So my prediction of Suns in 5, wrong.
Still holding out for that Suns in or Bucks in 7.
You know, I would like the Bucks to win. I was always a Suns fan because I was a huge Steve Nash fan. I had a poster in my locker.
7-second offense or 9-second offense.
Yeah,
the Suns had.
Yeah, and like Leandro Barbosa and just that Rajah Bell, just those Amari Stoudemire, Sean Marion.
Right.
I loved that team, and I had Steve Nash's ESPN cover in my locker, and I remember getting called.
You had other things in your locker too.
Lots of stuff. I remember getting called gay for that poster or for that cover because it's him like spread eagle, and falling into a bunch of basketballs, and apparently it's just very feminine. And you know, so
I'm
I've always liked
feminine.
So I like the Suns, but I also like Giannis. So
I was listening to K-Fan Sports Talk, and they were talking about how there's really no, like, usually when there's a finals, you have somebody to root against. Mm-hmm. There's nobody really to root against here.
Right.
So, like, I mean,
I think
if you're
Chris Paul is somebody that people would
so many
root
people would
against.
say Chris Paul.
Players aren't rooting against
Sure.
Chris Paul, but fans are.
Right.
But then you have a lot of fans that are rooting for him.
So yeah, and like I guess I was like, I don't care if Milwaukee wins or Phoenix wins. If I was, after Game 3, everyone thought the Bucks would win Game 3. That was kind of like the consensus overall, and they ended up 20 points.
Yeah.
And then for them to come back and win a hard-fought game last night, which basically the only offense for Phoenix was Booker. I'd be a little scared if I was Phoenix right now because
go ahead.
Milwaukee's playing with some intensity.
Right.
Middleton and Drew are showing up. Drew had 21 points, which is, about 10 times as much that he usually scores.
Which means he'll have at most 12 in the next game.
Next 2 games combined, probably.
I think for coaches, I'd rather have Monty Williams win. I think Bud needs it the most, but now that they made the finals, Bud will keep his job. But I would like Monty to get it just because nobody was hiring Monty when everybody said he should, and now he's a head coach and he takes them to the finals. And if they were to win it, I think the Suns have some stuff to hang their hat on, the Bucks were demolishing us and it still wasn't a blowout. So there's that, and they're going home, but you have 40 points from Giannis, 40 points from Giannis, 40 points from Middleton.
Yeah, they got scores.
I think that builds confidence.
So another thing is Monty Williams he's like, I don't want to complain about the foul difference. Yeah. But then he ended up complaining about the foul difference, just being like, well, let's just say that one of their players had 17 free throws and our team had 16. So, and my rebuttal to that would be, you're a jump shooting team. Right. Phoenix isn't a driving team. You got, Drew's good in ISO down low. Middleton's good in ISO down low. Giannis probably needs to be doubled.
Giannis, as soon as he starts heading towards the key, you should have Mikal Bridges or Cam Johnson or Ayton. Some combination of them should be ready.
They have an easier opportunity to get to the paint, especially Giannis. That's where he eats. So that's where the free throw.
Did you see his average shot distance in Game 3?
I didn't.
2 feet.
Yeah.
Game 3 where he had 40
I'd like to see that
points.
shot chart.
Yeah, I would like to see
just green.
It was all within 2 feet was his average shot distance, and I think you get Bridges and Ayton, you get those guys down low. I think now, especially in Phoenix, you force Giannis to dish it out like he was doing in Game 4. And
you gotta let Drew and Middleton.
If they're making their threes, you lose. But the Bucks take so many threes that a lot of times they shoot themselves out of it. I think they led the league in makes, but they did not lead the league in percentage. Yeah. So I would say let the stop Giannis with your bigs.
Now
that Sarge is gone, that's harder.
You have to let the other two. Yeah, because Sarge hustles. He may not be the most athletic. He may not be the fastest, but when it's time in Minnesota, he was a hustler.
He was awesome.
So,
him and Bielitsa were both 2
and he's a better shooter than Kaminsky. Kaminsky's slow.
Yep, Kaminsky's a mid-range big guy.
Yeah.
And, like, even when he was in Wisconsin, Decker was a better shooter than Kaminsky was. Like, he's... Yeah, I'd rather Sarge
move better, and that's defense-wise, you need that.
Yeah, so I think I would be fine with either team winning. The Chris Paul gif of him with Steve Kerr, where he's like that. That is the only thing that makes me want to root against him. Like if I'm rooting against anyone, it's just that gif. And like, it's like that. I think people do that.
From a future standpoint, if the Suns win, that makes it easier for you to kind of get rid of Chris Paul, almost. Like,
I've heard the opposite, that people think if the Suns win, they have to sign him. Because it's like, oh, he won a championship, so it's easier to swallow that deal.
Yeah, but also, like, the reverse to that is if you don't win, you want to keep the same team together to get to that point. Like, you don't know if you're going to get to that point again if you don't. I don't know.
But what if you don't win, both ways, and then you can try to get a guy like Damian Lillard?
Right, yeah.
I mean, I think, like, Devin Booker is clearly, I think they need a vet around them.
Yeah.
So they would need a vet point guard, and I can't think of any other vet point guards that would have an impact like Chris Paul. Because a guy like Damian Lillard would score the points, but he's not going to tell you on the court, like, get back. But, I would say Suns. I would say...
I'll go with Bucks for the sake of the argument.
I'll go Suns because I picked Suns in 5, but if the Bucks...
I'll say Bucks in 7, like that tweet.
Well, I'm already wrong, so it doesn't matter. Speaking of things that are wrong, let's get into our Who Says No? We had a few trades that we've seen over the week that people are passing out both on articles that we've been reading, different news sites, as well as Twitter, which is the best place to go for accurate and informational NBA content.
NBA Twitter is more entertaining than actual sports.
Absolutely.
Like insiders can come in and be like, hey, I got the scoop. Schefter, for instance, in NFL.
But yeah, so and Who Says
No?
Speaking
of Dame, speaking of the Warriors, Steve Kerr, I think the Warriors sent out a flyer offer for Dame.
They did. They it was Wiseman, number 7, and number 14.
And Wiggins.
I believe Wiggins was in they also... So Wiggins, Wiseman, 7 and 14 for Dame. And that was actually published, so there was, that's an actual trade offer that happened.
I think they're just throwing out the feelers. I don't think that's enough to get Dame. But, throwing the feeler out there and be like, hey, how do you feel about this?
I think if the Warriors were in the East, Portland says yes. But because they're Western Conference, they say no. Like, if you have to play against Dame, you're going to require that team to give you more. Lakers that want him.
Who doesn't want him? Name a team in the NBA
that wouldn't want Dame. And I don't think he fits the Warriors anyway. Right. But that aside, I think they're going to make Western teams pay more.
You're right.
Which is why you trade him to the Wizards for Russell Westbrook.
That's something. The Utah, like how he said he wants to go to Utah. That's in the division,
right?
Too. So you play Utah more often than you play any other Western team. Utah, Denver, Minnesota, and OKC.
I don't think Utah has anything Portland wants.
Donovan Mitchell, and you're not going to get rid of Donovan Mitchell because that's who you want to pair up with him. Rudy Gobert.
I don't think Trailblazers want Gobert unless they're throwing Nurkic in, but then you're giving in tons of pick. It's just like Simmons. It's hard to find a team that both fits, has a good thing to send back, where it feels fair.
Not like an overpay.
The player that wants out, that team's probably going to lose the trade.
Right.
So, in my opinion, that Warriors deal, Trailblazers, I think that's fair. You get number 7 and 14, Wiseman and Wiggins. Then maybe even move on from McCollum.
If I would get rid of everyone.
Right, exactly. So now you get all those things for...
I'd almost try to add a third team. Just so you can get rid of more of those assets. Bring in picks.
Yeah, give McCollum to the Timberwolves for Jarrett Culver.
And a second.
Which that's fair.
Don't own this year.
And try to get more. Throw Nurkic into a team that needs a big like the Suns.
Nurkic wouldn't be bad on the Suns.
Yeah, I think you get at 13, get rid of everyone, completely rebuild because you're not going to get another player like.
And you still have a chance to beat the Timberwolves every night.
Yeah, yeah, you do. Most teams do.
Utah doesn't. We swept Utah last year.
We swept Utah. I know we wanted to talk about that last week, but we forgot.
Yeah.
But, they swept Utah.
Sidetracked.
What was that?
Sidetracked.
That's all right. It's okay to sidetrack. Yeah. Another Who Says No. We agree Portland says no, but overall Warriors.
You got to get more. And if you give the Warriors Dame and they have
Steph, Clay, Dame,
Steph and Clay, you just lose.
Yeah, like one in each corner, one on the wing.
Lose.
They get so they lost Wiseman, get like a 3-point shooting big, and never enter the arc.
Yeah,
have Draymond at the top of the key, and he picks who gets to make it this time.
Exactly.
Second pick that we saw that gained a lot of traction happens to involve our favorite team, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Ooh.
And the hottest player that everybody seems to want to go to the Timberwolves.
Alexei
Shved. That I have no idea why people want him. I think his value plummeted. But anyway, Ben Simmons for at least two of the following three players.
Okay.
D'Angelo Russell, Karl Anthony Towns, and Ant-Man.
Okay.
Also, 3 to 4 firsts. And that said, it was a start.
Nice. So,
the Wolves say no.
The Wolves say no. As soon as they say, well, I mean, they already said D'Angelo's out of trade talks.
Mm-hmm.
The only player I'd really include him in is if you're getting someone like Dame, but once again, same division. I don't think that would happen.
Right.
We'd have to give up, half a target center.
So I think with I know he's not a popular pick right now, and a lot of people don't think he's that great. But one of those non-shooting point guards, I think, would be a good fit on the Timberwolves. Somebody like a Russell Westbrook. Yeah. So if they were to trade D'Lo,
we were talking a couple years ago when how good Westbrook would have been.
Yeah.
On our team,
because Cat doesn't like to be down low.
Right.
He plays the 5.
Well, he's the best shooting big man in the league. He's got great footwork and stuff down there. Doesn't really have the push, the muscle to move people around.
Right.
But he's got great footwork, and he can make any jump shot he wants. So.
Right. So
some of his step backs have just been nasty.
I wouldn't want John Wall, but he's a good example of that. When Derrick Rose was on the team, he was a good fit with Cat.
Yeah.
Rubio is a good fit with Cat.
Right.
I think a player like Westbrook, if you were to trade D'Lo, that's another player I'd be fine with.
I saw a thing on Timberwolves community on Bleacher Report, and they said D'Angelo Russell's not necessarily not included in trade talks because he's a worse player. It's Minnesota's trying to build a culture,
right? And
D'Angelo Russell fits that culture.
I mean, you see what he says publicly. He fits. If you
don't
want
to be here,
D'Lo on your team,
Cat.
You probably want the guys that are more aggressive.
And would Ben Simmons fit that culture?
No.
You can't say it. You can't say he would.
I don't think Ben Simmons would. I think Ben Simmons would fit with Cat, if I'm being honest.
Right. They're all three of them are friends.
Right.
So.
Ben Simmons and Cat basically spend all their time in California. I don't know if D'Lo does too. I'm sure he does.
D'Lo had a basketball camp start recently, and I'm a huge fan of people who've run the camp. I volunteered at a Karl Anthony Towns camp back in the day.
Yeah.
And just having him going up against little kids and just smacking their shot across the gym. And D'Lo did that on some little kid and just flexed on him.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it was fun.
But yeah, I'd like to keep D'Lo.
Yeah.
I know that they said they're going to, but
we also said we were going to keep Percy Harvin and Stephon Diggs.
So I do think Ben Simmons does fit well with Cat, and my only issue is he can't shoot and he doesn't make free throws.
Yeah.
So why would you he might be a good fit, but
I think
if your goal is to go further in the playoffs, Ben Simmons isn't the player you want. And he said Simmons said he's not going to the Olympics so he can work on his shot. And it's one of those things Ben Simmons is a player I'm waiting till near the trade deadline to trade for because I need to. If he doesn't have an attempted 3 by the trade deadline, don't trade for him.
Yeah.
The next on our Who Says No? A couple more D'Angelo Russell trades. D'Angelo Russell for Goran Dragic, Andre Iguodala, and Tyler Hero. You sent me that one.
Yeah, we just talked about the other day how like those players are coming to the end of their contract. So like, would Miami even want to bring them back? So
they would have to.
Why would we
sign their team option? Dragic and Iguodala are both team options.
Okay.
They would have to sign on to both of those team options and then give us Hero with his rookie contract, and that would equal D'Lo's max or whatever. So I would say no if I'm the Wolves.
I'd say no, especially because
Tyler Hero's overrated.
Tyler Hero's like what it's centered around.
Right. Tyler Hero's the biggest piece there. Goran Dragic is going to be your off the bench point guard.
Yeah, and Dragic can still score. Iguodala does stuff, and then Hero had probably one of the worst sophomore slumps I've ever seen.
Well, that's because I think the bubble was huge. Like, no fans.
Right.
Like, you saw young teams do really well in the playoffs.
Right.
And that doesn't happen because they're not not ready for it.
They're playing practice.
And then they crashed and burned. They got swept and against the same team they beat last year. And I think Hero got slapped in the face, and he's another one of those players. Like, if Miami's looking to move him, I'm waiting to see the trade deadline because I need to see what he can do for real.
Or if he's actually in like a funk or like. Yeah.
Because every time I looked at stat sheets, it was him missing. Yeah. Like, he was attempting them.
Yeah, Duncan Robinson was doing fine.
Right. So. But Hero wasn't just being, like, shy and having, like, a slump.
Right.
Hero was, like, missing. So I would say no if I'm the Wolves.
Following Butler's footsteps.
Yeah. Another Ben Simmons for the Wolves was D'Lo, Ant, Wancho, Okogie, and a first for Simmons, George Hill, and a future second. And that was from actual article. That was not Twitter. I'm the Wolves. I say no.
Yeah, that's probably worse than the other one.
That's worse than the other one. Yeah. I mean, 2 out of 3 for Cat. And 3 to 4 first. That's the worst one I've seen ever. I think.
That's a start.
I say no. And then I think there's a few more Simmons one just because he's the big one. Simmons for Sexton and number 3 overall.
I think this is probably the closest one.
That's the closest one, but if I'm the Cavs,
I say
no.
Your team is not great. And Colin Sexton was probably one of your bright spots. I don't think he's like...
Colin Sexton's another one of those players like Lonzo Ball and De'Aaron Fox. They've gotten better every year.
Yeah. I don't think Sexton should be like the primary ball handler, though.
I agree. He's listed as their shooting guard, and then I think Garland started as their point guard. But Sexton handles the ball most of the time, and a lot of the time, even with Garland like brings it up, Sexton will be at the wing and come to half court and take the ball. Yeah. So they clearly have Sexton running the offense. I don't think that's.
I would try to get rid of some of your other players. Get anything for Kevin Love. Chetty Osman. Move on from him. I like Jared Allen.
I think Jared Allen would have been a perfect fit on the Nets this year.
Yeah. I like Jared Allen. I think he's restricted, so they got to make a decision on him, what they want to do with him. But he could be a piece.
And if you're planning on keeping Jared Allen, Simmons does not help.
Yeah.
And number 3 overall, they say it's a 1 through 4.
Yeah, it's a 4-player draft.
A 4-player draft this year. So if you have a top 4 pick,
Cunningham, Suggs, Green, and Mobley. Mobley.
Yeah, Mobley. So Simmons has to be better than Sexton and one of those
Sexton
4.
Had what, 23 points per game? So. 23 points per game, Sexton, somewhere around that?
So he has to be better than 23 points a game.
Which he's not.
Sexton probably, I'm going to guess, I didn't look up, I'm guessing Sexton has somewhere between 4 and 8 assists a game, probably somewhere like 4 or 6. Yeah. Simmons has more than that.
It's hard when your team's that bad. You're not going to have a lot of people scoring.
Right, exactly. And when Kevin Love's taking the ball from you and whipping it at people...
Or just dropping it.
Yeah.
Just dropping the ball.
So that makes it a little harder to guess. I would say no if I'm the Cavs.
I'd say no if I was the Cavs.
Wiggins and number 7 for Simmons. I thought, there you go.
That's not bad.
That's it. That's like, then they still have number 14. If they still...
Wiggins can bring the ball up, too. Like, he did that with the Timberwolves. He can bring the ball up.
There was also, Fox Sports said Wiggins and 7 for Simmons, and Fox Sports also said Draymond and 7 for Simmons.
If I was the Philly, I'd try to squeeze a little bit more out of the Warriors.
Which is why I think it would be Wiggins, Draymond, and 7. Or Wiseman, Draymond, 7, 14.
If you want to keep Draymond as part of, like, if you assume that he's one of those players.
Simmons and Draymond are the same.
Yeah.
So if I'm the Warriors...
Draymond has more intensity, though.
Right, he does. And he tries, and he's a leader. Yeah. Simmons isn't a leader.
Yeah.
If you move on from Draymond and get Simmons, you're making Steph become your vocal leader.
Yeah.
So I would say
Steph needs to worry about dropping 40 a game.
If the Sixers were willing to do Wiggins and 7, I would jump at that. I think Wiggins fits their team better, and he actually did really well last year. But Simmons Wiseman kind of plays like a new school big.
Yeah. Yeah, see, and he doesn't have that, like, shooting... Like, he shot a little bit, but doesn't have that shooting touch that the other side.
Last thing about Simmons, the Sixers were talking about that they want at least an all-star in return. So based off of those trades, Wiggins does qualify there, a few other people, but I think if he doesn't take the 3 by trade deadline, they're not going to get an all-star player in back. Sorry, Sixers fans. I know you say you put 5 years into him, but no team cares about how much time you've put into him. So another couple other players that are trying to be on the move. John Collins, 4 teams wanted him. It was the Mavs, the Heat, the Clippers, and the Timberwolves and Spurs.
Yeah, not Clippers. Clippers probably can't afford him. So.
Right. You said that you saw that he's most likely going to get signed no matter what by the Hawks.
I think he's going to stay. You get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and he played well.
So he's probably not going to go anywhere. Sorry, Timberwolves fan, he wasn't going to come here anyway.
Yeah. Well, Miles Turner. Oh, it's something else.
Yeah. And then lastly, Houston is looking to do a huge move for number 1. They want Cade Cunningham. They already were admitted they want Cade. So they're trying to move up to number 1. Apparently, the package is huge. Speaking of huge packages, Joe?
I saw one more thing. In regards to the Houston thing, I think face of the franchise-wise, Cade has the most hype coming out of the draft. So, if you do want to get that player, would Detroit be willing to get rid of that? Or get rid of that chance to draft face of the franchise type? I don't think so.
They've had too long without one.
They're both bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'd have to blow me away, and I don't know how much draft capital or any players that Houston could get rid of.
Sure.
One other thing I saw was there's a tweet on Timberwolves community that said, "Would you take Miles Turner with 2 years left on his deal for $36 million or $18 million a year, or Jonathan Isaac, which has 4 years left on his deal for $17 million per year?" And I was like, I think Miles Turner. Absolutely.
I think Jonathan Isaac...
He tears ACL right off the rip.
Yep. Yeah. When he was finally doing really good, he got injured, and then same sort of thing's been happening to him.
Yeah. And he didn't say he said he didn't want to come here either.
Yep, he's one of those players that said he doesn't want to play. Just like Wiseman, when people talked about Wiseman potentially being traded to the Wolves, it's like, no, Wiseman talked crap about the Wolves.
Yeah.
Jonathan Isaac talked crap about the Wolves. So those players aren't going to...
Also, Miles Turner had that one Instagram post with him just with the wolf head emoji. Just saying. Where there's...
it's because maybe he's saying he's a lone wolf.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
All right. And where there's fire, don't have anywhere I'm going with that. So we wanted to move on to the Niffle.
Niflheim.
Niflheim. Yeah, the National Fanny Packing League. We had a couple, started off dark, and then we'll go light from there. A couple domestic assault cases.
Domestic violence.
Yeah, that have occurred with Richard Sherman is alleged. He was taken to the hospital after an alleged incident at his home, and then Dwayne Haskins, his partner, was taken in and arrested on charges of domestic assault. I believe it was charged, I'll say alleged just in case. He broke his tooth. Just want to say on either end, men hitting women, women hitting men, either or, it's not okay. I saw on Twitter today people making jokes, it's not okay, and it's not funny. Prayers up to Haskins, though. Speaking of Dwayne Haskins, the Washington football team, even though he's not on there anymore, the Washington football team is not going to be called the Warriors, as we heard from Dan Snyder. There was a lawyer who went and purchased the copyrights to every single name they said they were potentially thinking of. So if the Washington football team wants to pick one of those names, such as the Warriors or the Red Tails, they'd have to pay that guy however much he wants to charge them for those copyrights. So they said they'll be announcing the team name after in 2022. So they will not be the football team, but they will also not be the Warriors, which I know Dan Snyder said that was his top choice. So
I don't know if I like the. I'm like, when you think Warriors, you think Golden State. So
I don't really like when teams have the same, like St. Louis Cardinals, Arizona Cardinals.
Right.
Whenever if I search up Cardinals roster and I'm doing it, I have to specify Arizona because the first thing that comes up is St. Louis.
Right.
And I would think with my cookies it would know. No, I mean football.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, you were gonna say.
I was gonna say no, I didn't mind the football team. Just haven't liked the Washington football team. But you made a good point. Researchers, analysts, people looking for information on their favorite team. If they type in football team, you're going to get directed to the Washington, the Washington football team.
You have to type out the full Washington football team. And I saw it was Ian Rappaport said that's his biggest issue is like he'll look up hashtag football team, and he gets soccer because all over the world. So it's harder to get data that people are talking about when it's just football team. So I also agree. I like the new jerseys when they switch to it, and I don't mind the name football team. It grows on you. I still think it sounds clunky. But I'm excited to see what they picked. I liked Red Tails, but I think they wanted to go away from the name Red altogether.
That's smart.
But I did like the Red Tail name. That was definitely Red Wolves. I saw was another one. So it's whatever, as long as they pick one that they do the right research on. That's fine. Another big football news, another quarterback news. Tom Brady played the entire season, 2020-2021 season, with a fully torn MCL. It was originally reported that it was partial. And then it was reported again, further reported that it was a fully torn
MCL. Are you okay? Do you need mouth to mouth?
It was a fully torn MCL, and they won the Super Bowl. But
there was an instance where Joe Flacco got injured, like 2 minutes left, less than 2 minutes left in the game. He's down. He's in clear pain. He gets up. He finishes the drive to put the Ravens ahead. And then after the game, he said that or the Baltimore Ravens came out and said that he finished the game with a fully torn ACL.
So not saying that Joe Flacco's better than Tom Brady, but I don't think it needs to be said.
Right.
Does it? Doesn't need to be said.
I mean, the biggest question you could ask whenever I meet someone new, and I ask them two questions. I ask them, do you like football? If they answer yes, I ask them, the follow-up question is Joe Flacco elite? And depending on how they answer that, I decide if I want to be friends with them.
Same. And I always do like a third question to get like really deep. I ask them, is Matt Ryan elite? And if they don't sit and think about it for 25 minutes because it's a very difficult question to think about, they probably are a little too opinionated for me.
Exactly.
But, is Matt Ryan elite? Takes me that's like asking you to do 64,335 divided by 0.13 in my head and answer it. Like, that's not.
I know we didn't have this as a topic, but we talked about a couple of quarterback lists today, or last week, about how it was like Mahomes, Rodgers, Brady. Like I feel like those consensus top three, but then it was like Josh Allen and Lamar and Matt Ryan.
Personally, I would put Lamar above Josh Allen because Lamar's had 2 good years, while Josh Allen's only had 1.
And then below a couple of these these kind of fringe elite people was Russell Wilson. So, and I'm thinking in my head, in no way is Lamar or Josh Allen a better quarterback than Russell Wilson.
Agreed.
So, I saw those lists, and there's some names that were on there and some names that didn't belong there.
Yeah, like the most recent one that was done by players and coaches had Matt Stafford at number 6.
Yeah.
I'm fine if you want to say Matt Stafford's a top 10. But I feel like you can say Mahomes, Rodgers, Brady, Wilson, Josh Allen, Lamar. Like, there's your 6.
Right.
So who are you knocking down? Like, I would, if you're gonna knock down anyone, people I saw were arguing Russell Wilson's the one you knocked down because he hasn't been the same since. Like, he hasn't done anything since Legion of Boom left.
They had what one pick this year, 3 picks this year.
He's had
2 picks. I don't even know.
Seattle's
not doing much to help him.
And then they had no offensive line like his whole career because they were like, oh, he's mobile. We'll build elsewhere. Right. And he's still, like, the first few weeks he was torching people, trying to prove, like, look how good we could be
Dak
if you gave me.
On that list.
Yeah, like, Cousins wasn't on that list.
Cousins did go from 16th to 12th now.
Right. We've agreed that I think if you put Cousins in the top 15, you can make you can make an argument for most quarterbacks anywhere because of the way statistics can be manipulated now. But Cousins, I would say, if you were to say, think of a number, what's the first number that comes to your head? Mine's 14. Yeah. Like, oh, he's probably the 14th best quarterback.
Yeah.
But I've always said a top 15 quarterback can take you to the Super Bowl. It just takes a top 10 to win it.
Yeah. It's going to be real hard for people to, like, figure out where Cousins is going to be when he wins MVP this year. So.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's going to be
when he
tough.
breaks the quarterback rushing record. That's going to be crazy. Like, that's going to be...
What did Peyton have? 55, 56? I mean, Kirk hitting 60 touchdowns halfway through the season.
Right. Just don't run Dalvin at all. Pass it to Dalvin every time. Out of the backfield, pass. Right. Every time you want to run the ball, just pass. Do a short pass, and you can knock up those. And...
Can knock up.
Speaking of... we can probably talk about that later. All right, and that'll be it for the NFL news. The rest of it, we do have some. It's Vikings news, so we're going to put that at the end in our more localized Minnesota section. So if you're interested in that... stay listening. If you're not interested in that, stay listening. The next, we're going to move on. Loki season finale happened. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about Loki first? We also watched Black Widow together.
We saw Black Widow first. Let's go.
Nice toss, dude.
Go over the Black Widow stuff.
All right, so Black Widow, who, for those of you who don't know, Black Widow is a Marvel product. Marvel is like this big superhero company established by Stan Lee. For
Jack Kirby.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. So, in case you don't know what Marvel is, if you haven't seen any or heard of any Marvel products or movies in the past, Black Widow's one of those. Movie came out last Friday.
And we decided to Premiere Access it.
We did Premiere Access because we went through it, and if you include snacks, if you don't bring your own in, and drinks, due to the local prices, it was actually cheaper to Premiere Access.
Now, when Shang-Chi comes out, Shang-Chi, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I've been saying Shang-Chi since I was introduced to the character.
That's probably like the American way
Kevin
of saying
Feige said Shang-Chi.
I would say Shang-Chi then. Because they've probably been in contact with people that taught them how to say it.
So that's one I'm teetering on wanting to see it in theaters because I think it's going to be... I want to see Eternals in theaters. 100%.
Yeah, so Eternals looks like it's going to be a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi looks like it's going to be a beautiful movie. So Black Widow looked like a typical like it was basically a Marvel Mission Impossible movie. The first movie, I didn't know what to expect. To me, it looked like it was just going to be a typical action movie with not a lot of like major, like it's not a Guardians of the Galaxy or Avengers where they're going to potentially be in space. It's going to be basically just.
And you knew some outcome of this, right? You knew Black Widow was going to survive because it is it's between Civil War and Infinity War. You know she's going to survive. So
so you're never worried about that. So I mean, I didn't need to see it in theaters, but I want to see Shang-Chi and I want to see Eternals because I think that the graphics and the imagery that they're going to use are going to be better in theaters. There's just like a lot of people that didn't.
The next 3 movies, Shang-Chi, Eternals, and Spiderman I want to see in theaters.
Right. So I want anything that's going to use enhanced visuals to make it better. I'd rather see that in theaters. So animated movies are better in theaters, that sort of thing. Like a lot of people that didn't like Avatar was after it was out of theaters.
You mean The Last Airbender?
No, Avatar from James Cameron. Yeah, which is now also a Disney product. That like a lot of people that didn't see that in theaters had worse reviews. It's just one of those like. Black Widow wasn't those that would have been enhanced. But anyway, we Premiere Accessed it. Yeah. It was a good movie. My favorite part...
I know some people Premiere Accessed Mulan and Raya. Mm-hmm. I think it's probably better than both of those. Black Widow.
I wasn't a big... Raya is probably one of my least favorite Disney movies I've seen recently. I liked where they were going, like where it
I liked Raya.
I liked Raya, the character. Yep. Yeah. But outside of that, the story was poorly done. It seemed forced, and I don't like the whole Disney's new thing of big title to tell you where you are. Yeah. They did that in Black Widow too. Yeah. And not Black Widow 2, but Black Widow also.
Already?
That was so you've seen it. But yeah, and so I wasn't a huge fan, so I would agree Black Widow is better than Raya. I
guess where I'm going with this is Premiere Access wise, I'm for it.
Yep.
But I'm also for going to see it. See it in theaters.
Yep. If you have the opportunity to go in theaters and the movie gets better by seeing it in theaters, go see it in theaters.
You can have the camaraderie of interacting with your friends in the theater. We do that anyway, and people get pissed at us and throw things. But we did that at home. So
yeah, it was nice. So we threw things.
We still threw.
Home. Yeah. Like I was throwing stuff at your cats and
right.
Yeah.
I was throwing my cats at my cats.
Yeah. Take one, throw it at the other, see who can catch who. Right. We really accessed it. My favorite part of the movie was Florence Pugh.
That's how it's pronounced.
Yeah, she was a terrific Yelena. She was the funny. She was supposed to be the humor, which she was.
There was
very
a lot
funny.
of humor. There was Alexi was in there as well.
I would say that he made me chuckle. She made me chuckle more.
She made me laugh.
Yeah, she made me laugh. So he made me chuckle.
Yeah,
she made me laugh.
Yeah. We watched it. I was there. You were there. My girlfriend was there. And I'm just glad my girlfriend said something, because we were thinking it. She saw Florence Pugh, and a couple times through the movie, or a couple times when she saw her, she's like, she is gorgeous. And then we were okay to be like, yeah, she is.
And I was just like, yep. And I remember asking, I was like, oh, Florence Pugh? And she was like, oh, is that what her name is? And I was like, yep. She was in Macbeth, I believe, and just listed some other things she was in. Yeah, right. She's very beautiful, like most people in Hollywood.
Yep.
But I thought the most impressive thing was her accent. I did think there was a couple parts of the physical acting that needed some work just overall in the movie, but it's difficult to do action.
My favorite part, and you heard me laugh when we were doing it, was when she did they were in the gas station. She got down in the widow pose, and she's like, "Why are you doing? Why do you whip your hair back? You do the poser or whatever?
You're such a poser."
And I was like, "That's a great callback, because how many times has Black Widow
done that
thing?" And then she did it again right after that at the prison. At the prison. She did it at the prison and made Yelena roll her eyes, and then Yelena did it, and she's like,
she hates it.
That was my favorite part.
She was funny. I would say overall she was my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
My least favorite part of the movie was the physics. It's clear they had because every movie, for those of you who don't know behind the scenes, every movie that deals with a science aspect, which is basically every movie, hires a team of scientists that tell them whether or not it's realistic or should be done. So the most famous movie for that was The Core. They fired 4 separate teams of scientists, or they quit because the director was refusing to change, even though they kept telling him, no, this is the most unrealistic thing ever. No.
Sure.
It's clear that they did not consult a team of scientists, because, she gets kicked off the bridge by Taskmaster, where she clearly should have broken ribs.
Well, no, when she got punched by Taskmaster on that same bridge.
Yeah.
She flew back 20 feet.
Yep.
She should have, and that was a...
Right, she's not wearing padding. She's in, a shirt.
Right.
And, maybe, a vest.
A vest, yeah.
And then she gets kicked through, the guardrail off the bridge into the water, falls all the way down into the water.
Right.
Immediately goes from that scene to the fight scene with her and her sister.
And Yelena, yeah.
And
she gets slammed against the door.
At one point, she gets thrown and bounces between both sides of the... She goes, bam, bam, with the door frame.
Yeah.
Keeps fighting.
Probably should have cracked her rib there,
should have broken some. And then they go from that scene, after they're beating each other up, smashing things, haven't gotten injured yet, and then they go from that to falling off a roof.
Yeah.
And the other person that fell off the roof, the girl that was chasing them, broke her leg, and couldn't move. But you're telling me that Black Widow can get knocked off a bridge, and then they make the next scene is them buying ibuprofen, and they make a joke about they don't need the bad guys don't need the space guy.
Yeah, space god doesn't need something like that.
Doesn't need ibuprofen. It's like, well, she would also need more than ibuprofen because she should. So my biggest complaint in the movie was, you're telling me you can get injured, or you can go through all that and not get hurt, and then you're trying to tell me that this is a hero that doesn't have superpowers.
Yeah.
That was my biggest complaint.
Yeah, I think the action scenes were, in theory, would have looked awesome.
Choreographed looked good.
Yeah. But they lost me on the jumping out of the plane. Or jumping out of or when the thing exploded and they're falling. That lost me. Because if you think about it, everything's falling super fast.
Yep.
And then, like, Natasha Romanoff has, like, the thing, she's gonna fly through the air, catch her sister, put the backpack, or put the parachute on her sister, let that go.
With all the debris still falling.
With all the debris falling. You're telling me, like a chunk of that thing isn't gonna fly through her parachute, and Atlantis is gonna...
This gigantic, small, suburban city sized helicarrier that's crashing isn't gonna... Nope.
Yeah, so she just gets... She's okay. And then she, like, the sliding on the glass, like, side of the glass or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she falls. She falls somehow, and then Taskmaster falls the same way, but then Taskmaster's, like, woozy to get up, and then she just, like, sprints and runs and takes the helmet off, and then it's like... Psh.
Right, the brain-altered Taskmaster that's basically a souped-up person is the one that's woozy, not the normal person.
That can mimic everything, so if Natasha lands perfectly fine, and she doesn't.
All right.
So.
Well, that's a nice little segue. Speaking of Taskmaster, they made some major changes based off the comics compared to the comics.
Sure.
The new version of Taskmaster was just Dreykov's daughter, Antonia, with her body. Her brain was, after Natasha blew her up, or just burned her, they thought she was dead. They put a chip in her head and altered her chemicals in her body to make her brain
basically
controlled. She was basically
insane Black Widow, like a Black Widow on steroids.
Right, and then she becomes a perfect mimic, just like Taskmaster in the comic, but Taskmaster is a lot different.
Right. I don't mind the sex change.
Nope.
I don't mind if it's a guy or a girl.
I usually don't mind sex or race changes.
Right. One thing I had an issue with was it made it look very clear that it was a male stunt double.
Yeah, when the mask is on, if it's not a male, it's a very bulky female.
Right.
Like, the person that's under the mask does not look like the person.
Yeah. So I had an issue with that.
I agree. Especially the last scene after they fall out of the helicarrier, it's like they don't even try to hide it. Like, big, bulky person.
Yeah. So I had an issue with that.
Do you think they did that to hide the fact that it was going to be a girl underneath?
I think so. I would think they wanted to tease that it was the I forgot his name already. The male that was helping Natasha. I think they wanted you to tease that it was that person.
Right. They even there was a comment about a leak about the movie when Taskmaster can't come out, that there was a African American male with an unnamed role.
Yeah. And
it's like everybody's like, "Oh, that's the guy. He's going to be..."
In regards to I think Taskmaster, I didn't get enough Taskmaster.
Yeah,
I didn't think, like, for how cool of a villain it is, I hope Taskmaster, because Taskmaster's not dead, so there's possibly a role to play going forward. I figured out her name. It's Valentina Contessa Allegra de Fontaine.
Yep.
Yeah, I was saying it all backwards.
And it's amazing when an actor's name is Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and that's easier to say than the character.
Yeah.
But Taskmaster. Speaking of Taskmaster coming back, I also would have liked to have seen more Taskmaster. I think that was the biggest complaint about the movie that I saw. Was that I was looking at all the different ones. It was Taskmaster being changed, but not having a prominent villain.
I like, the villain was Dreykov.
Yep.
And Taskmaster was just kind of like a lackey.
Right.
I loved all the callbacks for Taskmaster's, like Iron Man, Captain America, Spiderman, Black Panther, Hawkeye, Natasha. I think there were 7. Mm-hmm. That's 8. That's 7. Whatever. I loved all those because it's like, ooh, that's that person. That's that person, right?
Right.
And that's just Taskmaster studying. So I think I like that.
Mm-hmm. I think they counted like 7 of them.
7. So I hope I said 7 because
you did say 7. But speaking of Taskmaster, you had something that you wanted to say regarding Melina and the pig tech that she used on like the Alexi pig.
So Yelena took all the widows,
right?
I believe, and then I don't know.
And Taskmaster.
I think. Well, yeah. So they all left. Did they all leave, or did Melina and Alexi take Taskmaster?
Melina and Alexi took all the widows and Taskmaster because they said, "Don't worry, we're taking her too."
Yeah. So that seemed weird to me. It's because I know she was working. She had that pig tech where she can control the pigs. And Taskmaster obviously has a chip that they can do the same thing with. So I hope that, first of all, now that Natasha's dead, I hope Yelena comes back, gets her own kind of arc, I guess, and that she eventually has to go up against Melina with versus a Taskmaster. Yeah. And I think going to the, I don't know if we want to talk about the post-credit scene, Yelena's working for Valentina Contessa Allegra de Fontaine, it seems, obviously.
Yeah, because she asked for a pay raise. Right. So if she's not working directly for her, she's working for the corporation that most likely Hydra or something along those lines.
Right. So
the same person that was at the end of Captain America and the Winter Soldier who gave John Walker. I always say John Carter.
So I'd like to see Yelena have an arc where she has to go stop something that's happening. It ends up being Melina behind it all. She has to make a tough decision. Maybe Melina kills Alexi, possibly, and then Taskmaster comes in again. Because I'd like to see Val, I'm just going to call her Val because it's way easier. I'd like to see Val almost flip-flop and have Yelena become good, and then her take Taskmaster to train this force, which I think could be leading towards the Thunderbolts. And I think Yelena's should be more on the good side rather than the bad side.
Yeah, I think that Yelena will end up being in Hawkeye.
Yeah, the show. So I think she's gonna be in Hawkeye.
She's gonna show up as the person she's gonna be trying to kill Hawkeye.
Right.
And I think that's when there's gonna be some sentimental point where
Clint can save her too.
Well, there's gonna be some point where Clint says, explains to her what actually happened. Like, no, I tried to sacrifice myself. And she saved me. She lashed me to the wall and kept going. Right. Like, he'll explain it to her, and I think that's what's going to happen. That'll be her flip, and that's when she realizes Valerie is she's the bad guys, and I need to. Why do I keep ending up with the bad guys with Dreykov and Val? Like, that'll be her flip.
Sure.
And then maybe that'll be her motivation to get Taskmaster out of there.
Yeah. If Val's building a Thunderbolts team, or like building this super villain team, or this bad team.
Yep.
I don't think Yelena fits that.
She doesn't.
John Walker does. Taskmaster does.
Yeah. John Walker is going to be basically the leader of it.
So that's what I like to see. Yelena be good. Taskmaster come back, be bad. I'd also like to see Taskmaster go up against Deadpool at some point, because that's one person Taskmaster couldn't beat because Deadpool is so unpredictable.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good one, but they'd have to... Now that the products are potentially mixing, we can see that. Speaking of Alexi, you said that maybe Melina kills him. They mentioned Crimson Dynamo.
Right.
And Red Guardian is... That's who he is. Yeah. They could be bringing in... They could bring in Crimson Dynamo.
Yeah, it's like the Russian version of Iron Man.
Iron Man, yeah.
So... I mean, acknowledging that person exists means we could see them in a future project.
That might just be the end all. Like, we're just going to mention him. We're not going to bring him in. Yeah. That's just a fun little Easter egg. But it could also be like, we're going to.
Yeah, she wouldn't say that name if that thing didn't exist. I don't know how big of a thing it is, because Alexi was like kind of years past his prime. Maybe Crimson Dynamo is years past their prime. It's just that's what happened.
It could be an old actor that they bring in that. is like a veteran Crimson Dynamo just to come in for a
maybe
little
have
bit.
Red Guardian to have a flashback where he's fighting crime, and he's fighting crime with Crimson Dynamo, whoever that person may be.
Sure. So. But overall, yeah, I think that's the direction they're going to be heading with
Yelena.
The Black Widow overall was good movie, not great, but yeah, it was really good.
It wasn't Thor: The Dark World.
It wasn't that bad, no. I wouldn't say it was a bad movie.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I mean, personally, I liked it better than Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
There was something else that
I retweeted this the other day. You liked it. Every Marvel movie that has come out since Iron Man has debuted #1 at the box office over that first opening weekend. And nice. Black Widow was no exception.
Speaking of Twitter, make sure to follow us on Twitter to get updates. It's at Glaziar Gambol, same thing there.
If you can find him, you can find me because he retweets.
Absolutely. So go ahead and check that out. It's just basically I run it like anybody runs a Twitter. It's not like a 100% professional account, so don't be surprised if it's not just updates on the podcast.
Yeah, he doesn't have the blue circle.
I don't have the blue check mark, and it's gonna be a while on that, I'm sure, unless this blows up.
When it blows up.
When this blows up and 10 million people are listening to this podcast
daily,
just because of the wonderful content provided by us. I mean, clearly we are electric and lively, and really you can't get a better product than this. So, next on Marvel, we watched Loki.
Not together.
Not together. We didn't watch that together. Most things we do together. Mm-hmm. Bathing is the biggest thing. But Loki we watched, and first of all, didn't say it at Black Widow, so apologize if it did get spoiled, but spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
In our defense, you should have seen Black Widow by now.
If you're watching or listening to this podcast and you haven't seen it, what are you doing?
Right. Like, Loki came out yesterday. They've got
those shows are better than this podcast, so you should be watching them anyway. So go watch them. We watched Loki. Really good.
Really good.
I would say it wasn't the best episode. Just personal opinion. I think in terms of like theories it creates, potential.
Absolutely.
That is what I think a lot of people are basing on what makes it a good episode. However, overall, if you were to just take it as its own, I would say episodes 4 and 5 were better.
Sure.
But it was a really good episode. Very intense, story-wise, very intense. Do want to say Jonathan
Majors was incredible.
Jonathan Majors.
I'm very, very excited. I can't wait for Quantumania because I want to see. He was this supposedly good version of himself.
Right. That's why he was titled "He Who Remains" because he wasn't Kang.
Yeah. That may be his name, which I think it is. But. Obviously it is. But this, I want to see him when a different version of himself comes in to like Quantumania, because it's not going to be that guy. It's not going to be that version.
It won't be the charismatic, pleasant. He'll probably still be charismatic and funny.
Yeah.
But it'll probably be in a more serious, maniacal way. Yeah.
So I think he's got the range to do it, because that was a great performance.
Tom Hiddleston, I believe, was the one who said that when he first came onto set and they were recording, everybody just kind of sat and watched him because they were amazed at the depth he was able to provide and how talented he was right off the get-go.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool. I would have to agree. He was an awesome addition. The episode Sylvie made me mad.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
It was proof that Sylvie is the Enchantress. I think she's going to be heading towards that Enchantress bad guy now. I thought at first they were going to make it like the whole Loki and Sylvie get together and
the TVA.
And potentially I didn't think they were going to do the lead the TVA thing because why would Miss Minutes offer them anything, a deal and at all? I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought potential storyline like in the comics, having a child together.
Okay.
Creating a 100% variant Loki that becomes the true good hero Loki.
Okay.
I thought that was the direction they might be going, but I think they're going to keep it with our Loki is going to be the good Loki, and I think Sylvie's going towards that evil Enchantress sort of thing. Because
everyone was saying Sylvie You can't trust. Your flaw is trusting somebody, and they're like, Loki's gonna turn on you. Our 2012 Loki's gonna turn on you. He does it to everyone. He always turns, and then it was eventually him trying to do the right thing and her turning.
Yeah, she turned on him. She knocked him. So a lot of things for those people that did watch. A lot of people that were thinking that he was sent to. So there's a couple theories. Loki was sent into another timeline.
Million theories.
Yeah. Loki was sent into another timeline. So when he arrived at the TVA, it was a whole new timeline, which is why Mobius didn't see him.
Yeah.
Or didn't recognize him. However, a lot of people were also saying that he got knocked into the same timeline, considering TVA is supposed to be not part of the timeline.
Not quite. I don't quite remember. Were Mobius and B-15 freaking out at that point?
Yep.
Okay.
And so when he got there, the other theory was that because of everything that's occurred, because Sylvie killed He Who Remains, a different Kang took over and now leads the TVA.
That statue.
And now that statue's there.
It's not the Timekeepers. It's not 3 Timekeepers. It's straight up
just Kang.
Kang.
So some people were saying that it's the same timeline. It's just now that He Who Remains is dead.
Yeah, because I thought watching it, I was like, I think that He Who Remains wanted them to kill him so that he could come back
and lead.
That's
and be the conqueror.
Right.
Well.
Ooh. He said conqueror.
That's his name. Said that. Yeah, that quote was really good. I tweeted that out and you liked it, but it was a good one. Yeah, Kang was the best. So he got me frustrated. And
the thing behind him through that glass, the glass, you see like this thing splitting, and you think, oh, that's that line splitting, and then it gets closer and closer, and you're like, no, that's just a branch of like the sacred timeline splitting, and there's so much more.
Yeah,
there's so much more.
But I like the idea that he wanted her to kill him. Now Sylvie looked like she was thinking, like, now what's gonna happen? Like, she didn't seem to know what to do next.
Yeah. Now our Loki was like, this could be bad. Like, if he's telling the truth, this could be really bad.
Right, and now Loki and his Mobius didn't recognize him. He's at the TVA. TVA's acting frantic, and Kang's now the leader. We still didn't see Alligator Loki. We didn't see Kid Loki.
But Loki will return for season 2.
But Loki will return for season 2. And I think season 2 is going to be really huge. My question is, how do they not spoil or change anything with other, like, the movies before season 2 comes out?
Because No Way Home is supposed to touch on this multiverse.
Yep, Kang's potentially going to be in that.
Doctor Strange is supposed to be the biggest movie Marvel's ever done. Like,
yeah, because that's going to bring in
Infinity War,
or Scarlet Witch. It's going to bring in everything.
Yeah.
Multiverse of Madness. It's
No Way Home's going to be the start of that.
Yep.
It's going to be, crazy. Quantumania, which is after all of those,
has Kang in it.
So
how do you not spoil season 2? Or
when's season 2 coming out? It's coming out after Quantumania. It's coming out between
I would guess
Multiverse of Madness
2023.
Yeah.
I would guess 2023.
So I don't know. So many things.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sylvie pissed me off.
Sylvie pissed you off too?
Sylvie pissed me off. A lot of people got jump scared by Miss Minutes. I don't know.
When she originally showed up?
Yeah, in the castle when they're in there. They're like, hey, y'all. Like, that scared a lot of people.
That's weird.
I also saw some tweets where people were like, this show, or Loki finale sucked. What WTF was that? And I was like, what do you mean? Like,
well, I've seen like a lot of, like, if you follow IGN, they tweet about it all the time, and a lot of the comments under the Loki reviews and that sort of thing were people saying, like, stop tweeting about this show, it's terrible. So there are a lot of people out there that don't like it. That's just, I think that's just the way it is. So the people that said, like, I don't get it, WTF, like, this was bad, I think they're looking for something. Right. Not only are they, like, hoping that Marvel comes up with something bad, they're anti-Disney, that sort of thing. They don't want to watch superhero movies.
Right. Those people that constantly think DC properties are better, those are probably the people.
Those people, too. Like, there's been DC... Like, Dark Knight is still probably, like, the best superhero movie ever, so...
It's up there.
You can go ahead and rest on that, but every other DC movie doesn't really compare.
Right.
So those are the people that are mad about it. In terms of Marvel vs. DC, we do have some other Marvel stuff that came out. The Free Guy movie.
Yep. So Ryan Reynolds and Taika Waititi are in Free Guy. And Ryan Reynolds dropped a Deadpool and Korg trailer review.
Like a mock reaction video that you see on YouTube.
And he mentions, hey, Korg, can you get me into the MCU? And then he's like, yep, just climb up on that hill. And then, you go.
And then realize that when you're at the top of that hill, that your dream is pointless. And
fall off that hill.
You're going to fall off that hill.
And then maybe check your email.
Check your emails.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, love that.
I'm hoping for some more. I'm hoping for some more Deadpool stuff coming up because we haven't really heard anything about that other than it's under production, I guess.
Yeah. Real quick, Taika Waititi. If you haven't seen What We Do in the Shadows, it's a fantastic TV show. He is the creator with Jermaine Clement, one of the singers of Flight of the Conchords, and they have a new show, Wellington Paranormal, that's finally made it to the U.S. I'll be watching. But What We Do in the Shadows, it's FX and Hulu.
Which Disney owns 60% of Hulu now.
Right, so. Yeah. It's a super funny show. Taika's been in one episode himself and Jermaine, but it's based off a movie they did back in the day, and it's a full show. It's very funny, no laugh track. I think it's
trying to sell me on this.
No. I mean, I think you would enjoy it. Right. I don't know if it's necessarily your thing,
right.
But I think it's very funny. And if you're looking for something different, and you like Taika Waititi, and you think his type of humor is funny, you'll think the show's funny. Anyway, next, back to Marvel. Anyway, Deadpool wants to come into the MCU, so that was like a little meh. Maybe.
We don't know if it's our Korg, but after Loki, one of these timelines.
Kraven is another movie coming out. Aaron Taylor Johnson, the guy who plays Quicksilver and dies in the second Avengers, he's going to be Kraven. I think that's interesting. Another person that is coming back, Charlie Cox. Please don't. That's not the Cox that you're thinking of. Those are chickens.
Yeah.
Charlie Cox. He played Daredevil in the Netflix show.
Oh, no. The thing they're thinking of is the thing that goes in, grout.
Oh, caulking.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So those are the Cox we're talking about, not the Cox we're talking about. This is the good Charlie Cox. He was Daredevil. He is going to be coming back. It's confirmed he will be in the MCU as Daredevil.
Yeah.
So they're recasting Aaron Taylor Johnson, how do you feel about recasting? Because we talked about that with Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, Charlie Cox, we talked about that last time. He was the best Netflix property. He was the start of the Netflix properties.
Right. And it's either going to be No Way Home or Multiverse of Madness that he's coming in.
I'd love to see him as Peter Parker's lawyer.
Okay.
I think that's, Nelson and Murdoch. I'd love to see him come in as his lawyer.
Sure.
And then he just, Peter doesn't have any representation or whatever. And maybe you have Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, as the defense. Or possibly something like that. Because they are both lawyers.
Right.
So you could either bring in Jennifer Walters or you can bring in Charlie Cox. And I think if you bring in Charlie Cox and he walks into the courtroom with his stick, there's a name for it.
It's a walking stick.
And he gets up and he's like, Peter Parker, and Peter Parker's like, yeah, and maybe even he gets his Spidey sense,
right?
Because he knows that something's up with him.
I would like them to not have She-Hulk. I want She-Hulk to be revealed by herself. I want She-Hulk's revealed to be in She-Hulk.
Right. I'd like to see some kind of
a hint.
Maybe just a side panel, there's a list of attorneys on a wall,
and she's there.
And Jay Walters shows up there. That's
I'm fine
all
with. I just don't. So they announced that she's gonna have fourth wall breaks in her show, that, similar to Deadpool.
Right. She did it first.
She did it first in the comics. So because of that, I want her, because if you want that to be her signature thing or a big thing, you don't want her to be brought into something where she's not doing the fourth wall breaks, because then.
But it would be her prior to being She-Hulk too.
Okay, so yeah, maybe
because would Jennifer Walters do that in the courtroom,
right,
or would She-Hulk do that fighting crime?
So maybe Jennifer Walters is introduced in Spider-Man as the lawyer or something like that, and Charlie Cox at the same time. Maybe Charlie Cox comes into She-Hulk too, but She-Hulk herself, so just Walters is introduced, but She-Hulk herself, wait until She-Hulk.
Sure. And you don't want to clog, with all the rumored people to be in Spider-Man, you don't want to clog it with more super people. So if you have Jennifer Walters in there, you're going to have Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. There's just, you don't want to overdo it.
Agreed.
Spider-Man 3.
That's almost everything we have for Marvel. A few things was...
In regards to Aaron Taylor Johnson, I'm for it. I don't even think he's going to be recognizable. He's going to be tanner. He's going to have dark hair. Probably going to have facial hair.
And he's going to do a good job.
Yeah. Apparently Sony said they watched one of his films where he was, like, driving or something, and they're like, that's our guy.
There's a few actors still that haven't been in Marvel that I feel like have a great couple roles. I think we should at some point talk about those actors.
Like Cillian Murphy as...
Doom.
As Dr. Doom.
Cillian Murphy should be in the MCU because, like, there's some actors that are so good that they should be in MCU. Like, the guy who plays, I believe it's Finnick in Hunger Games. Yeah. He has the look.
You've cast him as Havoc a couple times.
I've cast him as so many. Yeah, Havoc. I thought he would be a decent Mr. Fantastic. I don't think that's the exact role. He'd be a good Human Torch.
Yeah, he would be a great Human Torch.
Yeah, so, like, he has... I think he could be a good Iceman. I think he would be a good Cyclops.
Sure.
There's just so many things he could be, and he's a really good actor.
Maybe we do that next time. There won't be any Marvel stuff really.
Right, so we can bring that up. That can be our Marvel discussion.
So.
There was a few.
There's one more Armor Wars, I think.
Well, there was Armor Wars, but there was also Kevin Feige says that, or James Gunn, while working with Suicide Squad, he recently did an interview saying Kevin Feige is much more in depth on the edits in terms of the MCU. Like, he has his hands in the editing,
which makes a lot of sense,
as opposed to the DC universe where people don't have the big.
There's not a DC universe,
really, right? So, like, I think that's another big sign of why DC is so far behind, is because they don't have a big hand like Kevin Feige reaching into everything. And then after Loki, the writer of Ant-Man posted a picture of Venom and Spider-Man playing basketball.
Yeah, there's all those branches. There's got to be one where that Venom is with Spider-Man.
And that's Ant-Man. So does that mean by the time Quantumania comes out, we can get Ant-Man and Venom into our universe?
I remember seeing something. Kevin Feige said something about the Sony properties, and he's like, usually, I'm never say never with this kind of stuff. He said, the rumors you see online could happen tomorrow. Could happen anytime between tomorrow and 20 years from now, or it could never happen. Right. So that was in regards to when someone asked him about Venom. So he says these Sony properties could join the MCU tomorrow. It could happen in 20 years, or it could happen never. But he didn't say that. He didn't say no, that these Sony properties have no chance of coming over. And I want to see Venom and Spider-Man. Venom's got to get Eddie Brock Eddie Brock or Venom inside Spider-Man Tom Holland's head, talking to him would be a blast.
It has to happen because he has to at some point get Spider-Man's powers. Right. Venom at some point has to take over Spider-Man. Right. It has to happen. Yeah. Another thing with Ant-Man, so that was the writer who posted that Ant-Man. They cast the adult version of his daughter, who we talked about last time that we're not sure. Dark Avengers, Young Avengers, we think they're heading towards Young Avengers. Yeah. Since they cast his grown-up daughter, who in the comics becomes Stature,
right.
I think that's another good nudge towards they're doing Young Avengers in the future. And then they talked about Armor Wars is coming out with Don Cheadle as War Machine is going to be one of the leads.
Another Young Avengers person in there.
That's another Young Avengers. So I think those are, I think
we're
right.
I'd love to see Justin Hammer come back.
That was one of the rumors.
Yeah, if Justin Hammer came back, the whole thing is like what happens when Tony Stark's tech gets in the wrong hands.
Sure.
And Justin Hammer would be the perfect person to do that.
Yep.
So having Don Cheadle as War Machine and possibly I don't know the actress's name, but Riri Williams and Ironheart.
I think that'd be awesome. I would love if they brought Ironheart in. I remember when they brought the comic in originally, I was like, okay. That could be cute. It was around the same time I think that they did like a new Jane Foster.
She's got to be around Peter Parker's age too.
Right.
Ironheart's like 15. Peter Parker's like 16, 17,
and since she came out around the same time as a new Jane Foster comic, you could kind of pair them together with Young Avengers. I think that'd be good. Overall, though, I think that's it for Marvel that we have. Loki, terrific, the best Marvel show yet. And Black Widow, not the worst Marvel movie, but not the best Marvel movie.
Right. I have to, commend the outfits. The outfit design through all of the series
has been
Loki. Through all the series. Okay. WandaVision.
All of them. Okay.
Scarlet Witch's costume was badass. Falcon's was badass. Zemo's was badass. I like John Walker's, even though he didn't really like it.
Yeah.
Or like Wyatt Russell didn't really like it. He's like, it's just black. It's like, well, it still looks cool to us. So yeah, I've liked all the outfits so far. Taskmaster's outfit looks sweet.
Taskmaster looked good. Yeah, come on, good to all the writers, the producers, all the people that created the show. I've tweeted out a couple of these like big sappy thank yous, but the people that created the show, that they don't get the credit. Like Kevin Feige gets a lot of the credit, the writers get the credit, but the people behind the scenes did an amazing job. We talked about the nursing of Sylvie, the actress Sylvie. She was able to nurse while filming. That was part of it, the little thing that people wouldn't hear about. Everybody deserves credit, and good job, Marvel. So finished up with the Marvel news. We're going to move on to local stuff, so Minnesota-based news and information. The first thing that we saw was there was the match just happened with celebrity golfers and athletes and that sort of thing. Adam Thielen was talking about how he has grown really close with Aaron Rodgers. Doesn't mean anything, but does it? I tweeted that that Kronk, it's all coming together. Yeah. So when Aaron Rodgers is wearing number 12 for the Vikings,
12 would look good in purple.
I mean, everything looked good. Purple is one of my favorite colors. Purple and blue.
Yeah, purple and blue.
Yeah. So, I would. Obviously, it's one of those, like, yes, I want Aaron Rodgers. If you have outside of maybe Patrick Mahomes,
right?
Even Tom Brady, if he's your quarterback, you're like, oh, well, I get Aaron Rodgers for a few more years than Tom Brady. So, like, outside of Patrick Mahomes, you're probably taking Aaron Rodgers no matter who your quarterback is. So, yes, I would love Aaron Rodgers to do what Brett Favre did.
Russ will be up there, too. Russell Wilson.
A lot of people stopped liking Russell Wilson after this year. But I don't get why. I'll take him.
Yeah.
You don't want him? I'll take him.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's his personality off the field that people say, oh, he feels fake.
We have Kirk Cousins, who's like the nicest.
He's the dad.
Right, yeah. Ah, snap. Like,
sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take Russ. I'll take Aaron Rodgers. But if I saw some people say maybe Thielen and Rodgers both go to Denver, and I was like, no, we want Thielen.
Yeah, why would we? He had 14 touchdowns last year.
Yeah. Even if Justin Jefferson becomes the one in terms of yardages and receptions, Thielen is
in the red zone. That's
when Kirk
Kirk's
is like, who do I throw to? It's like, I'm going to Thielen.
And Thielen had some just absurd.
He always does.
Just one-handed, just makes people look silly.
Always.
He's got deceiving
a couple
speed.
Corners have said that they see a white dude lined up across from them, and they always judge him incorrectly.
Right.
And they said they see a white dude and they think they can beat him, and then he beats them, especially on like a quick cut or crisp route. Deceiving speed. Another local news. I don't know anything about hockey. All I know is that there's lots of icing and offsides that basically made me not interested in the sport when I was a kid. But the Minnesota Wild cut Zach Parise, who was our biggest star for a while.
Yeah, he's 36 now. He's
Suter,
which I think they brought in those two guys at the same time.
And Suter was the one that everybody was surprised about. Parise, everybody expected.
Yeah.
But Suter was the one because Suter, his current contract, he'll be making more money at his next place. Right. So that was the only one everybody was surprised about, but apparently they think they're making room to make Kaprizov the highest paid player in hockey.
Right. And, they I don't know much about hockey as well, but they just signed their, all-star, center or wing, Joel Eriksson-Ek, who had he's their leading scorer. He was the guy that got the goal.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So
I'm from Minnesota. We're supposed to, because of Minnesota. Hockey. We're supposed to hockey.
Yeah. So they just signed him to an 8-year deal, I think. Joel Eriksson-Ek.
Okay.
They signed a couple other guys. But yeah, Kaprizov, they gotta Just extend him now.
It was just like when McKinnon from, I think it's the Avalanche, when he first came into the league, I was like, I, again, don't follow hockey, but when I hear about a player, that's how I know they're insane. Right. Like, I started hearing about Kaprizov. I heard about McKinnon, and I was like, okay, so that kid sounds insane. They should. And now, apparently, he is insane. Right. So,
I mean, you know who Gabrick was? You followed that. You followed that hockey a little bit when Gabrick was there.
When Wes Walls was on the team was like the last time I watched hockey.
And I mean, you knew of Gabrick, and when you heard that Kaprizov kind of broke all of Gabrick's record, you knew that.
And I like Derek Bugard. Right. I liked Bugard a lot.
You knew that the Wild have someone special that they gotta maintain.
Moving on from hockey. Another local kid, Paige Beckers.
Oh, yeah.
All-star, superstar female basketball player. She just won at the ESPYs, was Best College Athlete of the Year. She dedicated a lot of her speech to Black Lives Matter, a lot of like a very strong empowerment speech. I watched it, which I don't normally watch that sort of thing, but I watched it because it's a local kid, and it was cool, and I keep calling her a kid, but she's probably like 19.
Yeah.
She was awesome, and congratulations to her. Very cool. She went to Hopkins. That's where my dad's from.
Constantly, D'Angelo Russell was at her games. Kat was at her games.
There's a few some kids that came from Minnesota recently, like Suggs, Beckers. There was that kid who just hit his head on the rim yesterday.
The dude that went to he's going to Gonzaga.
And then Chet Holmgren.
Yeah.
So you got a few kids going that are from Minnesota. Paige Beckers, if those people can follow in her steps, if those guys can watch her and follow in her steps, I think she's on her way to become the number one pick.
Oh, yeah.
So excited. She had a couple games where she was close to a triple-double. She'll keep that up.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Paige. And
the Lynx need to start tanking now if they want to.
That would be so cool. That would be awesome, but I don't think that'll happen. She'll end up at a bad team and make that team very good right away. And the last little bit of local news before we get to like fun facts and cool information that we found over the week. There was two guys, I want to make sure I give them credit, John Thuney and Nick Webster. They've done with their company 30 years of research because sacks didn't used to get recorded in the 60s and 70s. It was estimated that less than 60% of sacks in the 60s were actually recorded. So there was a lot of information that they were doing. Turns out that they found a lot of different players that had very good sack numbers that we didn't even know of. For Minnesota-wise, John Randall, Alan Page, and Carl Eller were all put into the top 20 on sacks leaders. They would have been top 20 all time.
If sacks were counted back then.
And Alan Page would have, if because it's considered unofficial, because since they didn't count them, is the defensive tackle with the most sacks in history. Like, as a defensive tackle, he has the most sacks in history. All three were on the Purple People Eaters. The fact that they didn't win a Super Bowl, that's insane. Yeah. Like, you have three of the top 20 sack leaders all on the same team with guys on the offensive line that were also really good back then.
I saw a tweet the other day that was that's got to be my most said thing on this podcast. I saw a tweet the other day.
Oh, that's fine. Twitter is where a lot of people get their... I think 50% of Americans now get their news from Twitter.
Yeah, so. It was like give an excuse on why your team lost or something. Ours was because we're the Minnesota Vikings. That was our excuse, and someone's like, that's not an excuse, and then they tweeted back at it and was like, you don't understand, like, Minnesota Vikings, like, that's just an excuse for us, like, that if we lose a game, we just say because we're the Minnesota Vikings.
And a lot of times the things that go wrong are just out of the blue, random, like Blair Walsh.
27 yards left hash.
Yeah, 27 yards left hash. Gary Anderson being perfect on the season and missing. Like there's just Brett Favre getting targeted and paid bounties. Just something ridiculous that gets them out. But anyway, that team was insane. That research was insane and cool to see. That's it for local news, unless you got something.
We had two people in the Twins All-Star game. It was Nelson Cruz and...
Shout-out Shohei Ohtani.
Eli Rogers, I think. I think's his name. Rogers.
That was starting pitcher, starting hitter, batting, home run derby.
Yeah, he got knocked out in the first round, but it's still
it's remarkable
what he's doing.
Bonus round, lightning round, whatever you want to call it. There was a few things. One thing I thought was ridiculous, slightly political, but not really. But there was a Duke research team, Duke University, that is doing research on how they can get in sub-Saharan African cities, how they can get clean burning stoves in sub-Saharan African cities to help with their emissions. But Africa as an entire continent, so not just the sub-Saharan African cities, as an entire continent only are 4% of the world's carbon emissions. Why are we focusing on, while that's great, help wherever we can, let's try figuring out hydro and wind and other forms of energy, like electric, in America.
Make the planet a healthier place.
And China.
Other places. Yeah. China, Russia, the big populations in a small spot. USA, China.
Let's get those fixed first. Go ahead and help people like this, but that shouldn't be the forefront. Another local thing, we had a couple fun little questions. What is your death row meal? What would be your death row meal? Just on the spot.
My favorite thing is probably chicken fried rice. So
last thing you eat in life?
Yep,
chicken fried rice
and a crisp can of Mountain Dew.
Oh, ice cold.
Yeah, a can though. I think the cans taste better.
Okay. I would say mine would be a spicy chicken and waffle sandwich.
Okay.
With a syrup, a honey mustard or syrup dressing, would be really good as with some pickled jalapenos and a nice crunchy. That sounds delicious. And then for the drink, also a crisp Mountain Dew, or maybe a crisp Mountain Dew and also a shot of something, just because going out. So a shot of Everclear and then a can of crisp Mountain Dew
injected.
Yep. I mean, that's what's about to happen. Yep. So
just do it. Just send it.
And then you have the choice. Do you get rid of hard pretzels or soft pretzels?
I get rid of hard pretzels.
I love hard pretzels dipped in mustard. Hard pretzels dipped in jelly. Hard pretzels dipped in jelly is my favorite. Snack crackers and hard pretzels. I'm trying not to snack anymore, but
a premium soft pretzel.
You go to a baseball game or something.
You go to a baseball game?
No, I don't. But somebody does.
For baseball. I
go there for the soft pretzel.
And a beer.
So you go to the Timberwolves game and you get a soft pretzel with the beer cheese dip.
Mm-hmm. And a beer.
And a beer. So beer, cheese, beer, and then pour the beer in the beer cheese.
I pour the cheese in the beer.
I get a tub of their nacho, that fake synthetic nacho cheese, and pour my Red's apple ale.
You just bring the jug of cheese, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, they let me, if they do. If it's if I bring it in
we
solid.
We had to sneak it in last time.
You don't want to know how. You might want to know, but I'm not going to tell you. I'll show you if you follow my OnlyFans. But yeah, so I think I would also. I love hard pretzels. I'm getting rid of the hard pretzels. Yeah. Especially, have you ever made soft pretzels? It's not easy.
I mean, when I was a kid, my mom would buy those frozen ones, and you heat them in the microwave for 30 seconds. I ate a whole pack of those.
Well, I made them from scratch when I was living in Colorado.
Have you ever been to a pretzel shop and they have the super long strand? They go like that, and it's just perfect.
Yep, we did that in a cooking class when I was learning how to.
It's crazy.
Cook. Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's difficult. The first one I did ended up with one side being a super slender one, but we got there. And homemade soft pretzels, if you can get the dark brown on the outside, but then you tear it open and it's white on the inside.
And then it's just steaming too.
You give it a spray. You spray with a spray bottle, and then you can put cinnamon sugar or salt.
Nice.
Or you can do brushed butter if you want to really get in.
I like butter and salt.
Yeah, most people should. Salt, butter, and fat, acid, salt, fat, acid, heat are the four main things that are flavor. So butter, salt. And then, staying on food, I must have been hungry while doing some of this stuff. Popeye's coming out with chicken nuggets like you've never seen before.
I'll be honest, I've never been to Popeye's.
I've never been there, but I've been somewhere that they had it. They catered it. there's a few places, like a few other chicken places, like fast food, or casual dining, some like Popeyes. I've heard nothing but good things about Popeyes, and apparently like their chicken sandwich is the best. Their fried chicken is really good. Like, if it's something we've never seen before, I think that are they going to start putting people out? If they're cheap.
See, I mean, Chick-fil-A, and Raising Cane's. I think KFC is dying.
I've never had Chick-fil-A, but that's...
I've never had Chick-fil-A either. Yeah. I feel like I'm in the minority. But I've had Raising Cane's.
Yeah.
And I like Raising Cane's.
I just had...
We went there at one time.
We went to Raising Cane's, yeah. And Raising Cane's was really good.
I think KFC's kind of...
I think companies that get too involved in politics and are obnoxious about it kind of turn me off. Like, unless they're
and that's fighting. Weird, because a lot of things turn you on.
Most things do. Some things, not even a wiggle down there. But Chick-fil-A, when Minnesota was doing their whole gay rights voting, Chick-fil-A was very open of, like, they were saying they're not going to open any more branches if they pass it. So it's very, like, not just, like, they can be outspoken, but that's very aggressive and, like, harsh. So go ahead and be outspoken and try to make a change, but I feel like that's why I don't eat at Chick-fil-A. I vote with my money. But yeah, Popeye's coming out with that. Another fun thing, the producers of Despicable Me were hired by Nintendo to help them make movies. Sounds like the first movie project they're making on is a new Mario movie.
Okay, I'm for it. I'd love to. I don't know if you've ever seen the new Dora the Explorer.
No,
but there is some adult humor in that.
Cool.
Like, not like it's a kids movie, but there's like you can tell that there's like some adult jokes in there. And I think if they did that with Mario, and I don't think you can have a Mario movie without Luigi.
Well, you're gonna think that most of the fans, like, you're gonna have a lot of kids, but a lot of the parents are going to want to go to be entertained by that character. So you have to make it appealing for the parents, too.
And I think if you just stick to Mario, Peach, and Bowser, that's going to be boring. So bring in Luigi, bring in
Wario,
Toad,
Waluigi.
Bring in Waluigi and
Wario.
Yeah, Wario and Waluigi. Bring in Wiggler.
Yeah.
And then you know what that leads to? Donkey Kong movie. Yoshi, yeah, you could. I mean,
I'm much better.
Yoshi.
Much easier than Birdo. I think I'm all for that. I would love to see some Nintendo movies, whether that's a Zelda movie, because like Nintendo is Zelda, so
that could be amazing.
Could be at least that they could get their hands in Pokemon.
Yeah.
That's more Game Freak, not Nintendo.
I mean, they did a live action Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
I want a bigger universe. I want that universe expanded. That'll be another. We can talk about that some other time. And we're right at the end of our time limit here. So
the power shuts off. It gets dark in here fast.
Yeah, which we tend to stay in here after it gets dark. Oh, by the way, clarification: when Joe said in case you didn't like him here in the episode, and he said he's going to sit over there. What we meant was he's going to sit over there.
Yeah.
So, right over there.
In the last one.
The last two things, we're going to hit them fast. Cats can't taste sweetness. So when you let them lick you, they're not tasting sweetness. And 111,111,111 times 111,111,111 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I didn't know that. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, I think that's a fun one.
Yeah.
Throw that around at office, Christmas parties, have people beat
at the water cooler.
Yeah.
People are already bored of that. If you've ever been to a faculty party.
If you've ever been to any workplace ever.
Yeah.
They already bored and don't want to be there.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's all I got. You got anything for us?
I got nothing left. Did you call me Forrest?
For us. Forrest Gump.
I got nothing.
I got nothing either. See ya. Thanks for watching. As always, the merit of any work is not good enough on its own. You need a fanatical group of people to help you move along. That fanatical group of people is you, is the listeners, is the viewers. We had video this whole time. Hope you enjoyed it. We're, as I said, very energetic and lively and super fun. But the fanatics please let us know. Comment sections, tweet at us. Go ahead and slide into our DMs to let us know any opinions or changes.
Or just slide in them.
We
don't have friends.
We don't have friends, so it would be nice to talk to people and interact with human beings outside of this room, considering the only time we go outside of this room is to eat. We do not leave this room to go to the bathroom, so it would be nice to interact with other human beings.
Your thing's getting full, too, over there.
Yeah. That's close to the socket, too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it would be nice, so feel free. Like it. If you're watching this on YouTube, give it a like. Subscribe.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Follow us on Twitter.
Notifications on.
Hit that little bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and follow us on Twitter if you want updates. If you're listening on Spotify, hello.
Like us on Twitter.
And like us on Twitter to get updates. And make sure to follow us on Spotify. All that stuff. The fans are the best. And again, if you're on Spotify, I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Stay chill, make a difference. Bye! Bye!